He turned the car on in the garage, and my fucking horn came through the Bluetooth.
Ask her. I heard Dean Blundell smokes crack. Was actually the first to smoke it with Rob Ford, I heard, too.
What's Dean got to do with it? Frankly, my dear, I don't give a Dean.
It's rated R for, restricted and for a little bit romantic.
What do we got?
What is that in the background?
What is that over there by the mic?
Is he making wallets? What is he doing?
What's he doing?
It looks like he's... Never mind.
What's he doing? What? Is he dead?
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Let's start right out. Hey, what happened?
Welcome. Hi, everybody. My name is Dean. Welcome to the podcast. We are joined today by a bunch of people. Lochlin Cross is here. James DiFiore, I'm sure, will be here in just a second. And Edmonton Conservative MP Mike Lake joins us today. There's James. There's Mike. Welcome, Mike, to the show. It's just like it's his foray. It's his first little dip into the pool of stupidity. Thanks, Mike.
And I watched it and I wonder,
regret.
what am I getting into? What am I getting into?
Generally a bad intro. That's all.
Nothing good, I can tell you that. But listen, happy you're here. We've got lots of stuff to get to. Mike's been kind enough to join us from Edmonton, Locks in Edmonton at 95.7 Cruise FM. He's the morning show host there. James, of course, blackballmedia.ca, and I'm from here. So we've got stuff to get to today. We've got a G7 to talk about. We've got Trudeau to talk about. We've got some free cocaine to talk about. Not with Mike, though. Not that we're not going to talk about free cocaine with Mike. But we're going to talk about vaccines with Mike. We're going to talk about being a conservative versus a liberal with Mike. And we're going to talk about this new lottery. So we're really happy you're here, Mike. Thanks for doing this. Before we get started, I have to ask you got a guitar in the back. Now, is that a prop for people in podcasts, or can you actually hammer that thing?
You know what? It's largely, it's not meant to be a prop, but I've been swamped lately and haven't had as much time to pick it up as I'd like. It's kind of a midlife crisis thing. I made it a mission to get myself in shape and learn how to play the guitar and pick up my French. And of the three things, the guitar is the thing that's fallen by the wayside. So from time to time, I'll hook up my Justin Guitar app and spend 15 minutes plucking out some chords, but not ready for the podcast yet.
No, so you don't want to grab it and give it a whirl? You want to show everybody what you got?
No, not
Are you learning blues, Mike?
You know what? I'm right now I'm learning chords. That's where I'm at right now. I'm not at the stage where I'm learning any particular style of music. One day I'd love to knock off something by Foo Fighters or something, but I'm not remotely there yet.
It's a long way to go when you first start. Yeah. From just learning chords to Foo Fighters.
Yeah.
But
it's a dream. It's a dream.
I'm going to make you feel awful. My dad played by ear, so he didn't know a lick of music, but he would plug the guitar into the stereo when I was a kid, and he'd start playing, and then within like 10, 15 seconds, he'd be playing the song and he'd be going, "Who is this, Locke?" And I'm like, Jesus, throw me crazy. Yeah.
Do you like music? Big music fan, or is this just one of the things that you picked up during the pandemic? Because I've toyed with the idea of playing guitar during the pandemic too. I just never did. No,
I love listening to music, and played the piano when I was a kid, and like a lot of 14-year-old boys growing up, I got to grade 6 actually in piano, so I did fairly well, and then ignored my mom's advice, much to my later life regret, and quit for more sports, and wish I would have kept it up. So this is me picking that up again.
Well, good for you. Really nice of you to join us again, Mike Lake, who's the MP for Edmonton-Wetaskiwin. He's a conservative. I want to ask you something before we get started down the road of the pandemic and some stuff. What is it like in 2021? Because the words conservative and liberal are two very dirty words in 2021, right? NDP, we kind of laugh about them. It's kind of a cute little joke. Hey, you NDP? Oh, that's cute. No one takes it that seriously. But I mean, we've weaponized liberal and conservative. And Mike, you're a lot like, as I got it from James, and I've done some reading, Nate Erskine Smith, only the conservative version. You go against your party. You from time to time when it's a matter of the heart or it's something you disagree with. So that's why I wanted to have you on the show. When James suggested that you wanted to come on and you had agreed to come on, I wanted to know how a conservative MP feels about being called a conservative when we know and feel like the word's been weaponized.
Well, it's I'm proud to be a conservative. I'm proud to be an Alberta conservative. I think you're right. I mean, I think for every party, we've weaponized the labels. And one of the things I always try to remember is that before we're conservatives or liberals or NDP or whatever we are, we're human beings. And I try to remember what it is that I actually care about, what I want to have an impact on. Leading off with this, which is a little bit dangerous, but when I was 19 years old, growing up in Devon, Alberta, just outside of Edmonton, my first federal vote in 1988 was cast for the New Democratic Party, for Ed Broadbent at the time. And I often say that what I care about hasn't changed a lot in terms of my politics. What's changed is how I think we get there. And so I like to kind of think of it and take it from the standpoint of the fact that our most important label is human beings, and then as we try to tackle the issues that are most important to us, we pick the party that best exemplifies the approach that we want to take. No party is going to have everything that we want, and that goes for voters as members of Parliament, whatever the case is. But what is it that we're trying to change?
Mm-hmm.
I have a question about that's sort of in the same vein, Mike, if you don't mind. So I'm well aware of the fact that if you put 100 people in the room, you're going to have a couple of a-holes, right? But what is it about politics, and why do we seem to prop up the morons? Like in the media, it's like, Mike, I know your name, but I know the dumb politicians and the dumb things they do more than I know. And my biggest concern moving forward is that people like you are going to get out of politics because of take the weaponization out of it. There is a growing distrust for public officials as a whole. And I mean, it would be like deciding to become an RCMP or a police officer in the current state that we're in. Are you concerned about where politics is at, as viewed more than anything?
Yeah, I am. And, out of 338 members of Parliament from all parties, the vast majority are really good people who really want to make a difference. We would differ in terms of what where we think we got to go as a country, but the vast majority are good people. I'll also say this, though, out of 338 members of Parliament, every one of us is a human being who makes really bad decisions at different points in our lives. And unfortunately, in the world we're in, when we say something that, we say something wrong or word something wrong or just awkwardly, we're on a 24-hour videotape, and any 10 seconds taken out of context, we all have those moments that that can be used to criticize us. And unfortunately, in this social media world we're living in, those are the things that get retweeted. Those are the things that get shared. Those are the things that grab a lot of attention. And so you're right. It's I think this environment is stopping a lot of people from getting involved in the first place. A lot of really good people who recognize that, they're not perfect. And the last thing they want to take their families through or themselves through, whatever the case is that social media world that just focuses on the imperfect all the time.
How many times a week does your wife say to you, "Get out, Mike, get out. Let's just go sell cars"? You're in Wetaskiwin.
The thing that's the toughest for me is I have two kids, right? A 25-year-old son, Jaden, has autism, and we can chat about that a little bit later. My daughter is 22, and she's just graduated from university from her undergrad. She's going into law school right now.
And, how old are you, dude? How old are you?
I'm just turned 52. So
you look like you're 33. You look like you're 10 years younger than me, dude.
Yeah, I was just about to say, Mike looks like Dean in The Matrix.
Mike looks like me if I took care of myself.
Yeah,
The
the
hair
image.
gives me away. We got the uniform going though. It looks like we kind of match a little here.
Yeah,
I need the headphones, but
All right.
you know, it's what's tough is when my daughter scrolls through my social media feed and sees some of the comments on my social media feed and says, "Dad, I don't know why you do it, or I don't know how you do it." She has no interest at all in getting involved in politics. She knows where my heart is and the things I care about, and we get a chance to talk quite a bit about it. But when people who you never have a chance to talk to, they have no context for who you are, but weigh in very strongly on social media, sometimes very threateningly on social media. It is a tough thing, and people see that, and it's no wonder that it's tough to get people to run.
Have you been threatened before?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We all have. If you were to talk to every member of parliament from any party, we've all gotten online threats. Most of us don't say too much about it, but they can be vicious, and it's interesting. Sometimes they're people who you know, who you actually know who they are. They're not anonymous all the time.
What, like friends and family have come after you?
Not so much friends and family, although I've had people who I consider friends who have been fairly critical on social media before, and the response is, why not text me and we can have a conversation,
Right?
grab a beer.
You know why they don't do that, Mike? You know why they don't do that?
Why?
It's because their friends won't see them be cool if they email you and say, "Hey, can we have a chat?"
Yeah, you know what? It's
Yeah.
the nature of the world we're in. But sometimes you come across somebody. There's a guy. We do a thing called Zoom happy hours that we bring people together from across.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah,
It's
across
awesome.
the political spectrum. And there's a guy on there named David Moskrop, who I don't know if you know him or follow him on Twitter, but he's a very interesting follow. He leans very far left, and he's the first one to admit it. And the way that we got to know each other, I consider him a good friend over the last year. He took a shot on me at me on Twitter, not knowing who I was, and he'd be the first one to admit it. And I shot him a note back and said, "You don't really know me. Why don't we grab a coffee?" We grabbed a coffee and realized we had a lot of similar things in common, both sports fans, even our views of the world in some ways are similar, although there's lots of ways that they're very different, but we can have a conversation, and we've become friends. And I think it's just too easy on social media for even good people to take that shot at somebody that they don't know, because it's they seem so removed from them. It seems anonymous even when it's not.
And that's the right strategy, that to say to the guy, "Hey, let's grab a coffee and let's have a talk and then get to know each other," because the claws are retracted when you're not on social media. And when you got first elected in 2006 to now, so that's like 15 years, the polarization that has taken place in that time period has been pretty profound. But what gives me a little bit of hope is that it feels like one of the largest growing demographics in, say, the world of politics or whatever, are that politically homeless chunk of people that are not on the fringe of either side, but like are more in the middle, don't really have party loyalty because they don't look at themselves as like in one box or the other. So it's almost to Dean's point about the dirty word and the weaponization of the word, but what about just a rebrand? Instead of like fighting, a different fight, why not just own the word back and sort of like communicate a more civil, rational tone with your political opposites?
Yeah, the challenge, I think sometimes is just that those tweets and those posts that get the most attention are the more negative ones. So people can kind of follow in and both politicians and the people who vote for us can fall into that trap of that echo chamber trap that everybody talks about. But I do believe that there's a thirst out there for a different kind of politics. I do believe that there are a lot of people out there. They're not as loud. They're not as prominent. Some of them aren't on social media, but they're looking for a different tone in conversation. And I do believe that there's probably a big win waiting for whichever party gets there first in terms of tone. I make, as I said earlier, I make no apologies for being conservative. For the things I care about, I really do believe in the policies of our party. I do think that sometimes we miss the mark in terms of tone, as every party does. And when that happens, in 2015, for example, I thought we had a leader in the Prime Minister Harper at the time, who was, very well thought of around the world in terms of his intelligence, the approach through the global economic meltdown. We had a balanced budget in 2015. and then we ran a campaign, focused on fairly negatively focused on Trudeau at the time. And
barbaric hotline. The barbaric
he could never
practices
live.
hotline.
He could never live down to the expectation we set with some of our negative tone, and I think that became a challenge in the campaign. And quite honestly, I think had we focused more on a movie trailer style campaign with positive quotes, there were no end of positive quotes from people on our government's approach through the economic crisis. I think that we would have done better. It's a challenge for any government that's been in power for almost a decade. That's always a challenge, but I think we would have done better than we did in 2015 for sure.
Yeah, I would throw into that pile the Aaron O'Toole outhouse ad. Like, I know it was a gag, but I think I saw a lot of people on the conservative side.
Well, I don't even think that was an ad. I think that was like a video that came out that shouldn't have come out, that he didn't want to come out, but it came out, if I'm not mistaken. Am I right, Mike?
Why do it then?
It's one of those things that it was the last few seconds of a much longer Facebook Live clip. It would be probably better to let Aaron speak for it himself. But the reality is, if you watch the full clip in context, I think it's the perfect example of what I was talking about, where it was a ill-advised joke in a Facebook Live at the tail end of a longer clip. Got clipped by our opponents, by his opponents, and saved for the right time several months later, and run.
Listen, every party does that, right?
I love when every party does that, Mike. When like something comes out that someone's been sitting on, because I know how I am at Christmas, right? I'm like, oh, I gotta go open it. I gotta open up. I gotta open it up. Can you imagine?
Having to sit on that,
like, if you're any party you are having to sit on something is going to be helpful to you for like not days, not weeks, but like months.
That's the Italian way.
Months. It is. That's what shocked me about this last thing, because I think the Conservatives did it too, depending on who you believe, with the blackface stuff and Trudeau. And it kind of just comes around full circle to kind of what we're talking about, whether it's James or Locke who's disenfranchised. James goes, hey, have you guys thought about maybe making your party better with better people? Like, have you thought about that? And you know what it comes down to for me? It's like, it's from the time that you were elected in 2006, and politics used to be cool. Like, politicians used to be these kind of cool, untouchable guys that you were under the impression were on our side, right? Like, these guys are on our side. They're representing me in Ottawa. They're representing me in Edmonton, wherever your capital is. There's my guys. Now, politicians, by and large, I don't put you in this category, Mike. You and Nate Erskine-Smith, or John Tory, who I love to death. I don't put you guys in this category. You guys are kind of like, reputationally, with the entire industry, if you would like, it's not cool anymore. It's like, no one trusts politicians. The weaponization just of the fact that the word of your party is a dirty word now. It's like there's been a huge sea change in how we look at politicians, how we approach politicians. Why is that? Is that something that politicians have done to Canadians, or is it something Canadians have done to politicians?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think that certainly social media has affected the way we interact as politicians. There's always been, as long as I've been a member of parliament, and a long time before that, there's always been you ask about negative campaigns and people say the reason we use them is because they work. All parties do that. But I think social media has, lent itself to sort of shorter sound bites and a little bit different communication style. I think, though, also that not just Canadians, but people broadly, electors, we've got this democratization, of course, that what people saw as the huge opportunity of social media. But what's happened is that we see regular people supporting their political parties like they support their favorite sports team. And no matter what their party does, they can do no wrong, and they'll put on the jersey, for every game. And people showing up to social media with talking points. And Dan Carlin, I love listening to Dan Carlin. Leans a little center left. He'd admit it, down south, and very popular. A few very popular podcasts. He does the hardcore history stuff, but then does Common Sense. And he talks about this, right? The idea that you can't have a political debate anymore with a friend because you're both coming with the talking points. And I think that no one can be persuaded, and no one can persuade anyone anymore. And that's sad, quite frankly. And we're less off because of it as a democracy. In fact, actually, I think that this lack of civility is threatening our democracy.
I don't want to sidetrack us too much because we only got like 35 minutes left, and I'm really enjoying this, Mike. The thing that you brought up that interests me the most so far is that you feel like there's this large middle that's being unrepresented, and that if somebody can just figure out how to connect with them, they're going to run away with an election, which is interesting because every time I talk to politicians on my show or on a podcast, I always ask the question, are you concerned about where we're at and the pure hatred for most politicians as a whole? And then you inevitably get into the whole, the size of the liberal conservative conversation. And I had Kenny tell me to my face, there is no sides. People are just people, and completely ignoring the fact that I'm like, dude, there's this whole middle. You guys are missing out on the middle. Someone's got to get to the middle here. And all I see on both sides is you can't run away fast enough from the middle, which is so disheartening because we continue to be disenfranchised. And then we watch our elected officials race further towards their side of the pie. It's driving me crazy. I don't even know if there's a question there. But
it's a comment. Now, I did say when we were leading into this that I would have to take a couple of timeouts to vote.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah.
In action, everybody.
I have to do that right now. Now I'm noticing I'm a little blurry here, but let me so let me just do this. So we got this video.
What are you voting on? What bill are you voting on now?
It's just on extension of sitting hours right now. So
I say yes.
Anyway, here I will take the picture here, and
he's voting. Mike Lake is voting.
Facial recognition software.
It is facial recognition. I got authenticated. I won't show you the app, but I will submit my
You know what? We should hack in it and put Dean's face in where your face is supposed to be.
Everybody!
I love it.
But to that question, Lochlin, I think it's kind of what we're talking about the echo chamber, though, right? Like you wind up in this situation where where as politicians the same thing, and you see it down south where you wind up electing people who are a little bit more extreme to the outsides through their their processes, their nomination processes for the presidential races and other things, and then you wind up getting that feedback loop through our social media. Definitely when you post something more extreme, you get more retweets and more shares, and you can fall into this sort of false sense that this is where people are at in their views. And I do think that it's a real challenge right now. I'm just going to as I'm looking at the blurriness here, I'm going to try and figure out a way to fix that. Otherwise, I
just wanted to know, because
dude, you look great. You look great. You look like a 10 year younger version of me. Arctic blonde, better shape. Otherwise, we look the same.
Arctic blonde, is that what it's called?
Yeah, there you go. That's what we got. We got Arctic blonde. It's not gray or silver. It's Arctic blonde. Okay.
I got a head full of skin. That's so you guys.
Jamesy, sorry, you wanted to ask a question?
No, that's okay. Yeah, just because I've noticed that in the last, say, 2 elections, that the Conservative Party has a similar problem to what the Republican Party have. Republicans have it to a much worse degree. Is that, especially during leadership races, when candidates try to woo the more fringy side of your base, like religious extremists and people that want to ban abortion and people that's just sort of way, way far to the right. And I often find it kind of frustrating when you see candidates really like be nice and sort of placate themselves towards them. And then when the election comes, they're careful what they say about things like abortion because they don't want to signal to that part of the base that they're not actually with them, but they also don't want to say they're for banning abortion. And I see them walking this tight wire all the time. And I'm wondering, how do you break your party out of that? Like, do you have to purge the extremists like in public, or how do you reconcile a moderate approach during an election when there is a very discernible kind of more to the right approach during like leadership campaigns and fundraising?
Can I suggest shame?
I think I think the answer for any party really ultimately is that we need to get more people engaged in the process. You have leadership races, and I think this probably goes for every party, although I can't speak for the others with as much knowledge, but you have leadership races where you might get 2% of the people that vote for a given party that get engaged in a leadership race, maybe might be as high as 5%. And the people who are really passionate, they may not fully represent the base. In our case, the 6.3 million people that voted for us across the country. And so you always have to, obviously respect the base and those members that take out memberships and support the party in that way, take part in political conventions and leadership races and those kind of things. But I think we all need to do a better job of getting more people engaged, and then you'll have a much better sort of consensus that reflects the the views of the broad views of the people that support the party ultimately.
Okay. Mike Lake is MP for Edmonton-Wetaskiwin. He joins us today, Conservative MP for Edmonton-Wetaskiwin. Conservatives have been given a bad name from people like Tamara Jansen, in my opinion. And I got an email or a comment here from somebody named Brenton on tour. He's with us. Can you guys address the Tamara Jansen, Cloverdale Langley thing and how his party can tolerate someone like that representing them? She reps our region. Super disappointing, regardless of party lines. Now, just to give you guys some backstory, if you remember, not long ago, Miss Jansen came out against lesbian activity, and about 27 minutes ago, the Langleys, the Langley MP produced a video opposing a ban on conversion therapy, and then introduced that to some folks. Now, she's in your party, and there is a very serious homophobia vibe that comes with conservative / Republican territory. Your thoughts on working with someone like Tamara Jansen, Mike?
I'm never going to comment on working with a specific colleague publicly in terms of a conversation like this. And you asking the question is fair. Me saying that I'm not going to comment on it is fair. I have an opportunity to go every Wednesday for 2.5 hours to caucus, and in the privacy of our caucus conversation, raise anything I want. And, that's the appropriate thing to do within the team. And of course, for my colleagues, we all have each other's contact information. And if I say something that someone's unhappy with, I really welcome the opportunity to have a conversation with someone, a private conversation where there might be a little bit more context given. So, but to the broader point,
yes.
Of the tent, and of our 6.3 million people that vote for us, we're going to have people in a very wide, with a very wide range of views. And what's really important for us is to try, whenever possible, to find some common ground. If you take a look at our party positions broadly, they are, as for the old positions around same-sex marriage and some of those things, those debates are long over.
Yeah, but do you want to find, Mike, find common ground with someone that doesn't believe a man can marry another man, or a woman can marry another woman, or that a man can identify as a woman and lives happily and is accepted as a woman? Because that's what Tamara Jansen, in my opinion, is saying. I'm not asking you to speak to the personality of the individual or to sewer the woman. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is does the Conservative Party not want to put some distance between themselves and people who feel as hateful as she seems to feel?
I think he was trying to do that.
On the specific things you're talking about, there I have no common ground on those things, on those issues. But one of the things that I think has served me really well over 15 years is my, ability or willingness, I think, in a sense, to try to understand where people are coming from, regardless of how different my views might be. why does someone believe what they believe? Why are they taking the position they're taking? And quite frankly, I think that that's something that can serve all of us well if we take a little bit more of that attitude rather than simply immediately slamming every position. And I was
getting angry at that person or anybody associated with that person. That's what we like to do, isn't it? Right? Like I'm asking the questions, but what you're saying is, hey, listen, we all like to just pile on before we listen. And you might not like what she said, but there are people out there that feel that way that probably need to be heard.
Well, let me say this too. I mean, I think this is really important for people to understand the context of our system is that, we're in a world right now where it feels like we can't have a conversation about anything. Set that issue aside. Just there's so many issues out there that we can't have a meaningful conversation about. And when it comes to, we talk about political polarization between parties, there is, it is a massive roadblock to moving forward and finding that common ground in the interest of all Canadians. The one place without getting into what's said at a caucus meeting, the place in my life right now where I have the most meaningful conversations, where we have the freest opportunity to speak our minds and explore a range of views on different subjects, very honest opinions, authentic opinions, is in our caucus meeting, actually, that 2.5 hours that we spend, or the time that we spend as a Alberta caucus of Conservative MPs talking. It's a different dynamic. It's probably the most similar dynamic to my former business life, where you could sit around a boardroom table and brainstorm and have a fairly passionate conversation and then move forward. Right. And so that's important. And the one thing I want to say on the issue you were talking about, we're at a place right now in our party where we have Eric Duncan, our member of parliament from the Cornwall area, who's openly gay Conservative member of parliament, who's taking the lead in parliament right now, fighting against the blood ban, the LGBTQ. The gay men's blood ban.
To donate blood,
yeah, the ability to donate blood.
They were lifting that.
It's a promise that was made by the Liberals in 2015 and 19, but right now the main champion in Parliament on this issue is a Conservative MP, Eric Duncan. So, and how much attention has that received?
Mike,
a lot.
Let's take you back to the tent quickly.
Yep.
So, is there ever a time, and I'm okay, like I'm 100% okay if this is the case? Is there, and can you give us an idea of frequency, even if it's a rough idea, where there's a vote coming down the pipe and the big guy says, listen, I need everybody on board here. And we can have a discussion. We can have at her in the caucus and talk about the pros and cons and where everybody's at. But when it comes to the vote on paper, I need you on my side here. How often does that happen?
Well, I think so. First of all, for any confidence vote, so for anything that has to do with the budget, that's traditionally, if you're going to vote against your party on a confidence vote, that's a big step and usually results in you sitting outside a caucus at that point in time. Former progressive conservative member of parliament in my old riding before the boundaries changed, David Kilgore, made that decision after 4 terms as a progressive conservative MP, and voted against the GST back in I think it was about 1990, and subsequently won 4 terms as a Liberal in Alberta, because his constituents respected him enough for that. So if you're going to do that, it's a pretty big step, and you better know what you're doing. On other issues, we're the party that is the most dedicated to free votes. We have more free votes than the other parties have. Typically, the ones where where you're expected to vote along party lines is when you're voting on something that's pretty fundamental, pretty core to your platform. We all kind of sign on every time to a specific platform, and I'm fortunate because in Edmonton-Wetaskiwin, my constituents are pretty conservative. And so most of what our party votes on, most of the core things, my constituents would be in line with the party platform. So it isn't really, there's not too much conflict for me. And on social issues, they tend to be free votes in our party, unlike the other parties. So it tends to be a little bit of a different circumstance there.
One thing that I want to switch gears here for a second, because one thing that I think was a real travesty over the last month, I think, was when Justin Trudeau said that the people who were opposed to Bill C-10 were extremists and they wear tinfoil hats. It was something like that. And I don't know many people, even left of center. I know far left, they really like it for various reasons, but most people I think don't like it. They like they don't want to see the internet get regulated. They don't want to see user-generated content get policed by the CRTC of all entities. And I was, I was just wondering if you could tell me about that bill and how you saw the process play out, where there was a lot of there was no release to the public what was contained in a bunch of the amendments until after the vote.
Yeah, you referenced Michael Geist in this regard, and
he's
Mike
the
Geist
best. Mike Geist, the king. Yeah,
he's phenomenal on these issues, and he's very nonpartisan, largely respected by members from all sides of the House for his views over the entire time I've been a member of Parliament. I mean, he's the Canada Research Chair for Internet and E-commerce, I think, is his specific title, and his stuff on this is brilliant. The process here,
hey, Mike, just so you know, he's a doctor. He's an internet doctor. There aren't many internet doctors out there, so you're right. He knows everything about this. He's a doctor.
Yeah, and his, watching his comments on Twitter have been scathing. I mean, this is absolutely not the way to go in a modern society where we have unbelievable opportunity represented by the internet and our ability to reach people like we've never reached them before. We have some of the best talent in the world right here in Canada, and what this bill does is it stifles opportunity for a lot of Canadians. It basically locks us into an old way of thinking about broadcasting, and when asked to explain it, the minister himself couldn't explain why exemptions that he'd put in place were removed at committee without Parliament having the opportunity to debate them. And
it's been fun to watch the minister try to explain those things, though.
I don't think he read it.
I love
Is there a chance he didn't read it?
I don't know. I don't know what the circumstance is. He's had a very hard time communicating what it is. And, in the broader issue of, of misinformation, disinformation, I had the chance as I was preparing for this to watch one of your couple of pieces of your former podcasts, which had me terrified as I was coming in. But I did notice that you were talking about free speech and who should be banned from social media and those kind of things. I tend to lean towards less restriction on speech and less censorship. But as it relates to sort of who's governing these things, the last entity that I want determining who gets to speak and who doesn't get to speak is the CRTC. We're in a society where there are a lot of really challenging viewpoints out there and a lot of challenges with misinformation. We acknowledge that. But at the same time, we should be doing everything we can, apart from hate speech and things that are already
that's obvious.
They're already in the criminal code, though.
We have laws to deal with those things. Yeah. I think whenever possible, we should be encouraging people to be able to speak freely.
Why is a former big telecom lobbyist? Why was he made the chair of the CRTC? Like, why is that even allowed? I don't even understand why that is something that.
Ian Scott, you talk about Ian Scott?
Yes, yeah. Yes.
These are conversations for the questions for the government, but
dude, that's you. You're the government.
Please tell us.
I'm in Parliament. I'm in opposition, and we are asking the government these very questions. I think C-10 is one of those big issues that transcends party lines. Yeah. There are people all across the political spectrum that have concerns about this. The NDP has asked some good questions, but they've kind of gone back and forth. The Bloc is partnering with the Liberals on this, and at committee it was all three of them. We were the only ones that actually really pushed back hard. But this is one of those ones where voices like Michael Geist matter in this conversation. And Canadians need to be focused on this. This is something that's really important in the general scheme of things. There's a lot of things out there that we deal with that are sort of more tangential. This is something that's pretty core to the way we communicate as a society.
So if you win the next election, can you just quickly give me the timeline on how quickly you will dismantle the CRTC?
Well, we were in government and we didn't dismantle the CRTC, but I think that significant changes in our approach are necessary on these things for sure.
Okay. Mike, the bill itself and all the skullduggery around it, the gag orders. If you follow Geist at @mgeist on Twitter, he's phenomenal. He literally covered it minute by minute, and each tweet was like, okay, they just ended that amendment with no explanation, gave it a number so we don't hear what the actual amendment is. Like everything that Geist did over the past few days was so that we could know that the Trudeau government was doing this undercover. They didn't want anybody else to see it. Now that the actual bill is there for people to go and look at, it doesn't look as bad, but the process itself has everybody worried, right? The process itself has everybody worried. So my question to you is this: is there anything you can do to change the process as the official opposition? And if there isn't anything you can do to change the process as the official opposition to how this is being done, because it's big. This is our speech. This is us communicating. Like we have an ability to communicate with each other that we've never had in this time, in this history of our lifetime, right? When we put out a tweet, we put out an Instagram post, that's us saying, hey, Locke, look at my new dog that I got. Hey, James, look at this pound of mushrooms I just ordered from BC. Like what the government is saying is that they might be able to tell us that we can and can't put those posts up there, right? That's what this bill is. And because everybody has spoken up, they've taken it all offline. They put a gag order on it. So that now that we have this thing as laid out by Guilbeault, which I don't even I highly doubt he read it. Highly doubt he read it. But now the thing's out and we can go read it. Do you think that this thing passes? Like, what are the chances that Bill C-10 becomes a bill?
It's all going to depend on whether Canadians weigh in, because it's at that point in the process right now where the government can move it ahead if they want. They've got support from at least one opposition party on it. So we're at that point, and then it goes to the Senate. If enough Canadians weigh in, the government can choose to shelve it, can choose to slow it down. If they choose not to, then we're probably going to an election. From every indication, it looks like the government's going to, or looks like Trudeau's going to decide to go to election in the fall. Probably Canadians will get a chance to weigh in. You asked what we can do as an opposition or what we might do differently. I would say this: first of all, we have to raise awareness of it. So we have to communicate in a way that people are paying attention to it. That's one of our jobs as an opposition. I would say broadly, people who oppose it need to communicate using the social media tools that are at least right now available to us, but do so and I caution people on this all the time. Do so in a passionate but respectful way. When people weigh in, no, I know. Believe me, I don't
think the three of us have that gear.
Okay, but what I'm talking about is if you're trying to persuade people, if you're trying to persuade the government, and you're using some of the labels that those of your listeners that are conservative would recognize that get substituted for Trudeau's name, you're not winning anybody over. You might get 1 million retweets, but you're not winning anybody over. You're not persuading anybody.
Mike, are you saying be careful where you put the R in Trudeau when you're talking about this?
That's one of them. You've hit on one of them, but I'm not kidding. It's not one person changes their mind because they see that, right?
Yeah.
So you might get 1 million retweets, but they're from people who already believe the same thing you do. And I think we're in a world right now where there's a real lack of the attempt to persuade and a real focus on trying to get as many people following you or as many retweets as you can get. But I'll give up followers on my social media if it means that I'm able to persuade some people to see the world a little bit more in the way that I see the world, and that's what we're really focused on. And I just think when we're dealing with issues like this, that's the approach we got to take. The one other thing I would say is that, for us as conservatives, if we're able to form government in the future, I think the other thing we can do is not fall into the same trap. Live by the same, guidance that we've given in opposition, and make sure that we don't do the same things. So, I think that
that would be the first. That would be the first time that ever happened.
It's incumbent on any party, though. Canadians should be able to expect that a party that conducts themselves one way in opposition is going to conduct themselves by the same rules when they're in government. And I think this is really important. It doesn't always happen.
It would be magical. It would be magical if you guys did that. Like, it would be incredible. I listen, part of this whole C10 thing when it comes to conservatives, I don't want to verbalize. I don't want to say publicly, I'm with the conservatives on this one. Because I'm afraid that people are going to go, oh, you're a conservative, right? And because I'm firmly entrenched in the conservative camp when it comes to Bill C10 and the CRTC and the overregulation of free speech. I'm 100%
voting one more time. Voting one more time, and then I'll
beautiful.
This is awesome. What are we voting on right now, Mike? What's this one?
Look at him.
He looks so
like
serious.
like a cyborg.
It's like a driver's license picture, though. You're not allowed to smile for it to recognize your face.
You have to grimace a little, like.
Yeah, so you just have to look serious. So you were saying I look serious, so that's perfect. So I knew I got all three of them approved right away each time. So if I'm smiling too much, it'll tell me I have to take it over again. And when I'm in the middle of a podcast, I don't want to be doing that. So
you can look at your phone. It's like, it's.
By the way, my whip will appreciate me being able to do this while I'm on a podcast. So. Yeah. Democracy in action. It's not that glamorous, but you were asking me about C10, and you were talking about your reluctance to.
Well, my reluctance was, I didn't want to say publicly I identified with the conservatives on this subject, because I didn't want someone to say, oh, look, you identify with the conservatives. Like, that's the dangerous part of the time that we live in, right? Where I fully support the fact that the conservatives hate this bill, because if you've got a brain in your head, you fucking hate it too.
But here's what happens, right? So, James, you connected with me originally because you read Steve Pakin's article about the Zoom happy hours and sort of the civility in politics. One of the things that he pointed out in that article was, when I did my 1-minute statement in the House on civility in politics, Susan Delacourt, reporter for the Toronto Star, tweeted something positive about that statement. And, the Toronto Star is not the most conservative-leaning paper, and Susan Delacourt's followers probably are not all card-carrying.
Yeah, but you guys got the Toronto Sun wrapped up.
But get this, though. Get this. So she tweeted about it. It was very interesting because I was tagged in. It was really interesting because, on something like that, we can take hits from different sides. It was interesting to see how she got pummeled from people on the left who said, how can you say anything nice about a conservative? It was hard to watch, but it was very enlightening to kind of see that this happens on all sides right now. Is that you can't even say something positive about your opponent because you're going to get crucified by the people on your own team, in a sense, right? Or people who lean the same way that you lean. And that's what you're talking about, Dean. You want to try and maintain some sort of level of nonpartisanship. You say one thing positive about anybody from a party, and and you're a card-carrying member of that party, right? Absolutely. And we get it all the time. Like, we get it. If I say, I wrote an article, like, I don't know, 3-4 months ago, and the title was "Justin Trudeau is an asshole." That was just the title of the article, right?
What were you trying to say in that article?
I don't remember. It was a long time ago, but I got hammered with tweets from people saying, "You conservative bleep lover, you bleeping neocon bleep, you bleep." I'm like, no. Here's an article I posted 2 hours before that saying, I hate Aaron O'Toole for these specific reasons. Like, and so I just spend time cutting and pasting bipartisan or nonpartisan stuff to people who call me different names, but it is a dangerous time to live in to identify with any political party, right? Which is why I'm happy to move off the subject. Mike, sure. you mentioned your son Jaden, and tell me a little bit more. He's 25.
He's 25. He was diagnosed with autism when he was 2.5. He's nonverbal. He's one of the most authentic people I know. I've learned more about him than just about anybody else I know. And he can't. He's just honest. He just when he looks you in the eyes, it's very magical in a sense, and he's helped me to grow so much as a human being as I've kind of tried to be more patient and really tune into what he's trying to say. Maybe I think it helps me to try and understand what everybody's trying to say these days, looking at him and just sort of waiting on him rather than trying to assume, because he's nonverbal, try and assume what it is that he's wanting to say. I try and really listen to him by not just listening to him, but also by kind of reading his body language and his eyes and everything else. And, I wish everybody got a chance to experience that. I wish everybody got a chance to experience one of his high fives. These days, that's a little frowned upon, but can't wait to get out of COVID so that he can interact with people again in that way. But it's, he's an incredible kid. Obviously got challenges in his life in terms of the way he processes things like danger and the way he's feeling, but he's also got these amazing gifts and skills and abilities that we try every day to unlock for him. So
you posted a beautiful video. Tell me about the song in the video.
Yeah, you know what, it's if it's the one that was posted on my Twitter page, it's the song goes. It's a song that I've sung to him since. So I worked for the Edmonton Oilers before I got elected, and I was gone a lot for games.
When they were good.
This was 95 to 2005. So the Cujo does wait Bill Guerin years. But anyway, I've travel a lot, obviously, and so I had this song that I've sung to him since he was a little kid. It goes, "Think of me every day, hold tight to what I say, and I'll be close to you even from far away. Know that wherever you are, it is never too far. When you think of me, I'll be with you." And so it's just, when he loves the song, obviously, he's, since he was 2 years old, and he locks eye contact, but lately he's started to kind of sing along with me, which is I think what you're referencing in the video. And so we posted that on Twitter. We posted I think a year or two ago, but on Facebook we posted it when it originally happened about 4 or 5 years ago. It's just actually on the couch behind me right here. And on Facebook, I think it got 1.4 million views or something like that within the first week. It just went kind of crazy. So it just kind of speaks to his ability to connect, So
here's the video that I'm talking about. I'm a big softie, so I loved it. But this is you and Jaden doing that song that you were just telling us about. It's beautiful.
Look at mine. Look at mine. Okay. Think of me every day, I'll be close to you even from far away. Know that wherever you are is never too far. When you think of me, I'll be with you. Good job. That was nice.
Yeah, that's
beautiful. That's so
beautiful. Just awesome. Thank you for that, and thank you for joining us today. I appreciate it, Mike.
Oh no, it's great to be here and love the conversation. Next time we'll have to talk some Oilers and Blue Jays, but
yeah, we will.
I need a break. I need some time.
We will, dude. Thanks for doing this, Mike. Really appreciate it.
It's really nice meeting you, Mike. That was awesome. You're restoring my faith in politics and the people that are in it.
Yeah, Lochlin needs your help because he is the most disenfranchised adult you will find on planet Earth at the moment. Like several of these conversations we end with, and this was literally what Locke says at the end of these conversations. Like, I can't live in a world where I believe that's an actual thing. Like,
well, trust me. Okay, so here's what my ask of you guys is: if you see me post something and you don't like it, give me a call.
Swear at you, call you names, publicly shame you.
Send me a note, a direct message on Twitter or something like that. I'll follow you guys and find me that way.
Follow you right now, Mike.
Yeah,
appreciate it, Mike. You have a great day. We'll talk to you soon.
You guys too. Thanks.
You're very welcome. Thank you. That is Mike Lake, Edmonton-Wetaskiwin MP. How nice was that? With
what
him
a good guy.
At the
good
end.
Lord. Why are there not more politicians like him? Like, why?
You know what? We should just keep finding them.
Greasy.
They're around. There's a few around. We should just
but
keep
they're the
trying to
ones,
find them.
like I said, they're not the ones that does anybody know? Do we know Mike's Did you put it on
Mike Lake MP?
Okay,
At
awesome.
Mike Lake MP. Super easy. Give him a follow. Edmonton.
But I
wanted to ask him if he got his shot.
I believe what he says. Him and Erskine Smith both say the same thing, that there's a lot of really good people, but there's so many unknown. There's 338 or whatever. There's like, and what? How many MPs do you know the names of? The first and last names? A dozen, something. You know what I mean? Maybe more, but like not 200 or something like that. So we just have to scout out the ones that are like that. Because listen, I think that conversation, the one that and the two that we've had with Erskine Smith have been really informative conversations. And
they're amazing. They're great. And again, like, I'm not even kidding. It's guys like that restore my faith in. But why don't we hear more about guys like Mike, right?
I don't think the media is interested.
The same reason we don't hear more when people say good job. Like we don't hear good job. We hear what the fuck are you doing? Because the what the fuck are you doings are far more attractive to people when they want to talk about things than good job. Like, we never say, like, you go for a meal. Are you ever going to go and seek out the chef to tell him the steak was fucking fantastic? No,
yes.
You're not.
Yes.
You're not.
When I go to British pubs and order curry, I ask the waitress, I'm like, the guy in the kitchen, is he white or not white? She's like, not white. And I'm like, curry. I want curry. And I do that.
Yeah.
I swear to God.
No, I desperately try to be more grateful. Because I need it. I absolutely have to. It's sort of centers me, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I got a lot of work to do on me as a person, and I've admitted that freely. I do it here, I do it on my radio show, but I'm trying to be less judgmental, and I'm trying to be more grateful. It's something that I tried to pass on to my girls as well. Like, my daughter said to me, she goes, my teacher finds it strange when I thank her at the end of the class. I said, I don't care. Keep doing it. It's just, are you learning something? Yeah, then you have something to be thankful for, grateful for, and it takes 2 seconds. Good job today, teach. Thank you.
Yep.
You walk out, and it just, you start it. Maybe somebody else will see it. The teacher pulled her aside and said, you don't need to do that. And she's like, I do that because I want to, right? It's a small little thing, because I can be a bitter, angry, cynical dick.
Yeah, but that probably has nothing to do with alcohol.
All right. Okay. I'll work on that too, James.
Hey, we were talking. I didn't have the nuts in that conversation with him to bring up Trudeau's trip out to England, because I don't know if it was like a year ago. James and I are on the phone.
Mike's
we're talking
not
about
the
Trudeau.
guy. He's not the guy that you have a conversation with about the possibility that Trudeau and his wife are separated.
Yeah, that's the wrong choice. Yeah.
No,
I'm glad I waited. My point was I didn't have the nuts.
We'll save
to
it
bring
for
it up.
O'Toole. He'll do it.
Hey, how do you feel about Sophie and Justin? But listen, it was like a year ago. James and I are on the phone, and we're talking about Trudeau and his wife. And James is like, they're broken up, right? And I'm like, no fucking way.
You need to start qualifying shit when you're going to bring me into it. But I told you what I told you, because I had multiple sources saying that it's the worst kept secret in Ottawa, right? And but I mean, how do you verify a story like that unless they make an announcement? So the rumor for over a year has been that they are split, and it's apparently the worst kept secret in Ottawa, and no one's really talking about it. And I don't really even need him to announce it. I don't give a fuck. Honestly, if he's married, if they're still married or not, I don't care. Like, you know what? He's probably he'll have more in common with the common man if he gets divorced. Like, it really means nothing. Like,
let me ask you a question. You say it means nothing, but if we were in the United States of America, and that was everyone would be talking about it.
Yeah, but that's like saying if we were in that's like saying if we were in Afghanistan, we'd get killed for having drugs. Yeah, it's true, but that doesn't mean anything. Like,
but it's interesting though. It's an interesting conversation. Why is that? Why don't we get into the dirt on this stuff?
Americans are more
because you know what it is? It's crazy, because I put a post up. So James gave me some source information back when he told me about it. We put up a post. It's like they've been separated for over a year with a question mark, like with some source material. And it's been our biggest post all year. Like, it has been the biggest post that we've put up everybody invariably every day I log on, there's like 40 people reading this one story, and it's been going on for like 7 years, and nobody's come to us and said, no, this isn't true. But if you remember during I think it was an interview with Global's Laura Stone, Trudeau and Trudeau's wife had this to say about denying an extramarital affair. Asked if whatever happens in our lives, I'm not saying it did or it didn't, as if we would answer that. She puts her fork down, looks across the table. I can tell you right away that no marriage is easy. It's almost kind of proud that we've had the hardship. Yes, because we want authenticity, we want truth, blah, 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 bunch of stuff. So like the rumors have been, not just whispers, they're super fucking loud now. And then he goes over to the G7 and everybody's wife is there except for his. Like every single wife is there.
Every wife is there, but his Siemens O'Regan didn't make the
for
trip.
his. Shame. No, Sophie. Now everybody's freaking out. They're like, I guess there's something to this. Sophie's absence, all too common. Separated? ? Sidelined again at the international meetings, G7 summit? ? But literally, look at it's like all the G7 leaders, all their spouses, and then there's a doofus standing there with a beer, going,
standing
there, a lot of fun.
Doofus standing with Doofus. Look at those guys. That's the left and the right. The worst part of the left and the right, and they both look exactly the same. That's hilarious.
Yeah, they all got their mouths open and they're all looking. But no, Sophie.
Wow, a bird.
Guffaw.
But again, no Sophie. And the incredible part was I posted this story about him going over there solo. The only people that defended him were women. Jill Biden was the only spouse who attended the G7. If Sophie attended, your writings would be about how it wasn't required, waste of money, about COVID, et cetera, et cetera. I'm like, no, all the wives were there, actually. And she's like, oh, okay, sorry about that. I get it. There it goes. I stand corrected. She goes, Jill Biden was the only one I saw. Like every single one of those wives were there. And the only people saying, hey, listen, leave Justin alone, leave Sophie alone, leave them alone are women who just love the guy.
Interesting.
I do too.
Yeah, he can do no wrong because he's pretty, right?
Well, the problem is that if it is true, he doesn't have the balls to say it. That's really it's not the actual separation. It's the fact that he doesn't
it's the political ramifications of it. I think is probably
but all that shit that we're talking about with Mike Lake and Erskine Smith and all that kind of stuff. I think the example of him being like, you know what, I'm not going to talk about it a lot, but we are separated, and that's that. And the media can go nuts if they want, but that's all I'm going to say about it. And then it's done. You're done. You don't have to talk about it. And it doesn't drag on for 7 months.
That's what I've learned about divorces with public figures. Once they admit it, we just stop talking about it. We never
don't
bring
care.
it up again.
Yeah, we don't care.
No, we would be all over this. That's why I'm surprised it's not a bigger story. If it is, in fact, if she finally woke up and said, this guy,
but it would only be a big story because the Ottawa bubble, okay, the media, the people that work in politics, all that, the people they know, the Ottawa bubble has known about this allegedly, the separation that may or may not be happening for the last year and a half. So it's been permeating. So it actually will have legs now if it comes out because it's been permeating in the underground of political whateverness for like a year and a half. So they're turning it into a big story. In other words, so if they announced it after they had decided, okay, we're separated, we're done. If they just went, okay, I'm going to do a quick presser on it. That would have been a year and a half ago, allegedly, and by now we wouldn't have been talking about it at all. It would have been done. Now it might break for the election, and it'll be interesting to see if voters react to them being treated badly by the media and vote more for them, or if they'll be like, "Oh, this is awful. How could they keep it a secret and vote?"
Do you think that's what it is? Do you think the media predominantly wants a change in government and they're staying away from it?
No,
because it doesn't make any sense to me. If I'm sitting there having a conversation, if the three of us, these three jackasses, know about this, there has to have been conversations at newspapers, television, in the back room about whether or not to do anything about this story.
Okay, listen.
And you're telling me no one said, why aren't we talking about this?
I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. Because the media that doesn't like Trudeau, which would be like, Post media papers, The Sun, the National Post, or whatever, half the Globe and Mail stuff, it would be like if they covered a story like this. First of all, they're not. Good example. The relationship between the Governor General and her secretary. Okay. The other worst kept secret in Ottawa is that there is a romantic relationship there, and she was working in the Governor General's office as her secretary. And then all the scandals that permeated from that office can be easily explained if you add romantic relationship. But when you don't add it, you're like, why would she build a secret staircase and then take off to the cottage with her secretary for weeks at a time? This doesn't make any sense. And all of a sudden you're like, well, what if they had a romantic relationship? And editors are like, we can't go there. And the only reason why they can't, because they didn't get either one of the people allegedly involved in this relationship to confirm it. And until they do, they need what? Tabloid pictures or something. Like, it's an impossible story to tell until the people admit it, right?
Well, listen,
but can you not in media
on my show every day?
Oh, by the way, I did write about the story and talked about that relationship, and that's why we're called Blackball Media, because no one will hire me now.
Oh, full circle. I love it. Yeah, it's a big loop.
Part of it is, listen, and it's exciting, it's interesting to talk about, but I think of this in terms of like real life shit. Like, I don't care if he gets divorced and they've fallen on hard times. Everybody does, right? 70% of relationships end this way, if it indeed is what we have heard it is. Which is, it's like 68% or 69%.
Wow.
To give you an idea, I have 2 sisters and 4 brother-in-laws. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's great.
You know what? I
don't really care about any of them, to be honest.
My mom and dad broke
days
up
are numbered
quite early, which is understandable. They were both, I think it was a shotgun wedding. My mom got knocked up at 15, turned 16, had a bouncing baby boy named Lochlin, and had a 17-year-old husband. And I'm pretty sure my grandfather went, "You're marrying her." And
set up the trailer.
I'm pretty sure he was packed. He had a lot of guns. And as soon as he died, my dad fucked off. So, and now my sister and her husband, they've been together forever. And my wife and I have been together forever. So I don't know what it is. I think it's cyclical, right? A little bit.
Yeah.
My wife.
If that's the case, then the apple doesn't fall far from the Trudeau tree, if you will. You know what I mean?
Yeah. The Trudeau tree being Margaret Trudeau's vagina? Is that?
Hey, do you guys remember
Is there
this
a tree up there?
I don't know.
I put this tweet up after, and I was like, I literally worried over it. Like, before I hit send, I was like, I don't know if I should put this up.
Yeah, you think too much.
Should I have put that up? Yes or no?
That is the greatest savage moment that you've had in since I've known you. That is the greatest tweet. Economy of words, check. Socially relevant, check. Historical reference, check. Like it hits every nail into the coffin of your career. It's amazing.
Even just the look on Charles's face looks like he's perturbed. Like do I really have to bring up the tunnel one more time? Yeah. Really? Really? Do I have to bring
I want to know what they're talking about.
All you need is a drunk chauffeur, a tunnel, and Brian Lilly on a scooter. You'll get it done.
Looks like he's talking to him there. No, but my point is, I don't care that he's getting divorced. Everybody gets fucking divorced. What I care about is that they're doing such a great job hiding it. Right now, everybody's
clearly not.
Ask question. Well, this is my point. Is it you go over to the G7? You're all the wives are there taking wives pictures.
Wives love it.
Like look at this. Look at this. Look at all these wives. Every one
that
of
a
them.
Wife in the middle? What is that?
No, Sophie. That's right. Like here,
I thought that was the old lady. Kid. It looked like the old lady from the Golden Girls.
No, I think it's Drake's kid. I think he rents out his kid for pictures.
Yeah.
No, I think that's Drake's kid. I think he rents his kid out for
the one in the middle with the purple. Isn't that Jill?
Jill Biden, yeah.
That's Jill. Okay.
If you ask me, as a fan of older women, pure smoke show. Jill Biden.
Yeah. She's a rock. She's a rock star. Look at her.
Absolutely. That's Boris Johnson's wife right there. I don't know.
Which one?
Right here down at the bottom right. Probably drugged her into it.
That's Boris Johnson in the middle. Look.
Anyway, there you go.
Drunk and pantless.
So JT, ladies, and can you imagine, like, if I'm Prime Minister Justin Trudeau right now and my marriage is over and people are talking about it, I'm hustling that information out there as fast as I can.
I'm telling
so that
you,
every time I go somewhere, I am the most eligible man on the planet.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask Mike whether or not he was concerned about the possibility that he's going to form the government again, because that is my biggest fear. I'm wildly concerned about the fact that the Conservative Party has not done enough, at least in the last 6 months, to make a dent in that.
I can't believe Aaron O'Toole isn't succeeding as leader of the Conservative Party.
Why did we put a guy in that seat that looks 15 years older and is younger than the guy? Like, haven't we learned to put somebody in there with good hair? Like, what is wrong with these people?
I don't know.
Like,
Stephen Harper's Lego hair probably won him at least one election, though. I don't know what it is about his Lego hair. Like, it's just like he's the last of those. He's the last of the generation, really, to like have that sort of like old, crusty, good old boy kind of Catholic hair.
Helmet?
Yeah.
The helmet
hair.
The politician helmet. Yeah, they got it.
Yeah. Hey, let's do this cocaine story. I've been thinking about this all morning.
So have I, man. So
1.2 million in cocaine washed up on the beach in Florida this weekend, and a wildlife officer came across it. And I laughed my dick off when I read the story.
He could have finally had a wildlife, that wildlife officer.
He scooped up another 12 packages of cocaine and he took it to the police. They're currently trying to find it, but they think, this is the Florida Keys, they think someone was tossing this stuff. It was like Cape Canaveral or something, actually. Someone was tossing this coke overboard and it all washed up on shore. And it was 1.2 million. And I'm reading the story and I thought to myself, who the fuck turns like, if I find 1.2 million worth of anything, I'm seriously questioning whether or not, and I know he's a wildlife officer, but he probably gets like 30 grand a year, ride around on the beach on an ATV. He discovers this coke. Are you not going to think just for 1 second,
it might have been
maybe 20, I should find someone to sell this for me?
It might have been 25 packages to start. You never know. Right?
I wonder how long he sat and stared at that in his kitchen. That's what I want to know.
If he did any of it, probably a few days.
He took that home, put it on the table, made a pot of coffee, and sat down and stared at it.
Guys, I got to tell you, if this was the early 2000s and I found that, I would be dead. I would literally be dead.
Well, okay. So James is dead. Dean is selling it.
I would have tried to find a seller for it, but I don't know that
I would have bought it off
you.
You.
Do it.
So here's my thing. I put a lot of thought into this because I had a bit of a scare with the.
Sorry, did you see that? Did you see this? So I tweet this story and I'm like, what would you do if you found 1.2 million in cocaine washed up on the beach? This is James's initial response 3 seconds after I posted the story. Cocaine, probably.
I should have put cocaine, just cocaine. I mean, probably. I would have been like, what is this? And I'm like, shit. I would have had the first thought would have been like, careful. It could be laced with fentanyl. Careful.
No, I'm good.
Yeah.
But I was amazed because he wasn't the only one. Like, these are people whose names and faces are on Twitter, right? Like everybody, and they're all going, I'll do the coke. Give me the coke.
I'll do all of it.
Obviously, the coke, the correct answer, he says, is cocaine, ladies and gentlemen. This guy's like, I'd burn it. Well, you're a fucking loser. Emily's like, fucking party. I'd party is what I'd do. This is Dan Steiger. It would be disposed of slowly. Casey says, I checked the calendar to see if it was a 1980s Oilers Stanley Cup party.
Wow. Or any NBA locker room. But
here's my dilemma, right?
Yeah.
I have a drinking problem.
We know.
What? No.
Just checking to see if my wife's around.
Oh, I'm sure she doesn't know. Go ahead.
No, I just don't like to admit it around her.
You don't. Did you seriously? You live with your wife of 30 fucking years. You just admitted to having a drinking problem on the podcast, but wouldn't admit it to the person you've lived with.
Give her any more power in this relationship.
Life.
I was wondering what made you so surly every single night for 25 years. I just couldn't figure it out.
So hey, listen. If you're telling us, chances are she may have noticed.
She just doesn't like to hear it. That's all.
It's about admitting it, guys. It's about giving that up. I don't want to lose that card. It's one of the very few cards I have left in my wallet. Okay.
The
Here's
AA card?
the thing.
What is that?
Back in the day, I had a night where I partook, and what it allowed me to do was continue to drink all night long. And I remember thinking to myself, wow, I gotta stay away from this shit. I also knew how much it was, and I am a cheap dick. So there was a moment there where I was like, I could go on a real serious run here with this stuff. And I chose wisely, and I have never done it since.
Quitter.
Okay. Now, if I'm on the beach and $1.2 million worth of cocaine washed up on shore,
as you are sitting there with a pina colada in your hand.
what it does is
Don't
allows
call me.
me to
I'll die.
skip the whole I'm cheap phase of my life.
Uh-oh.
And I'd be on a run.
Woo!
If we're being honest, Locke might take a vacation
Go on.
from reality. If you got room on the bus, Bonzi.
You'd kill Bonzi. That would 1.2 million.
Oh, that would kill.
Bonzi.
It'd be
Bonzi and I
over.
would be dead. Our pupils would be enlarged because we did shrooms after we did $800,000 of cocaine. It would be awful.
I'd be at least I'd inherit the bus. Who's gonna know?
True.
Not me.
The hookers.
That was funny. Anyway,
I'm glad we didn't do that with Mike Lake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I hope he's not watching right now.
hey Mike, would you do cocaine if you found it? Hey Mike, look at all the coke Mike Tyson did. Hey Mike, all the mics and the coke.
Oh,
Mike.
Jesus.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Good stuff.
And last but not least, before we go,
Music was a nice touch, by the way. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that. Last but not least, and I feel like I should bring this up because it's important. But this, the province of Edmonton is going America.
Well, hold on. Manitoba did it first.
Province of Edmonton, Alberta, and Manitoba are going American, and I like it. News that Alberta is going to be the second province to institute a vaccine lottery.
Mm-hmm.
Jason Kenney announced 3 $1 million prizes will be given out to anybody who goes in and gets their vaccine. Your name will instantly go into a lottery thing, and then they're going to make a draw, I guess, in the next couple of months. Is that what, for like $1 million? Is that what I'm understanding, Locke?
Okay, well, I will clarify a couple of points because I read up on it yesterday on the weekend when I heard the announcement on Friday. So what they're going to do is it's three separate $1 million draws.
Yeah.
And there'll be a web page. Actually, the information might be out now. I haven't had a chance to look, but they're setting up a web page. So you'll have to go on and physically register for the lottery. If you win due to privacy issues and whatnot, I guess they can't say, listen, you have to go get vaccinated in order to qualify. But what they can say is you don't have to get vaccinated, but in order to win the money, you have to prove that you were vaccinated.
So hold it. The lottery is for everyone. It's
everyone,
not just for people who are
regardless of
vaccinated.
whether or not you've been vaccinated.
That's a bad way to
can't
do it.
win.
Fucking stupid.
It's some kind of technicality. You can't win without being vaccinated. So if your name comes out of the hat at the end of this and you didn't get vaccinated, you don't get the money, right? And you have to be able to prove it. But I think most people are going to get vaccinated or have been vaccinated and are going to enter the draw. And we're close. We need to be at 70%. And then we got that sets the clock for 2 weeks. And then we're into the next stage, which is stage 3. So it could be as early as the first week of July if we can get to that 70% mark. Now, I wasn't sure if this would actually have any impact on people's decisions to get vaccinated or not. I mean, we all have those friends that have sort of dug in and they're not going to do it. And I can't imagine a few of the people that I know that haven't been vaccinated yet changing their mind because there's a lottery. There's a chance to win $1 million. But there's a lot of people on the fence right now that I think might be persuaded. And it did actually have quite an impact in Ohio when they did it down in the States. And I don't know if there's
Mike DeWine, the governor of Ohio, saw a massive uptick when they started the lottery. They said they started the lottery, and everything took off again. So they're and apparently around 80-90% now with first shots in Ohio, which is huge.
So it has had an impact, and I think that is the template that the Alberta government and Manitoba government is working off of in order to get our numbers up, right? And again, a lot of people are having the conversation right now about whether or not this is just an attempt to buy votes. And at the end of the day, Kenny, whether you like him or not, and I'm very critical of him as a leader here in Alberta, his job is to get this province back up and running. And the sooner he can, the better off the economy will be, right? So it's in his best interest. So essentially, he is buying votes. And if $1 million, if a draw for $1 million gets you off your ass and gets you a shot, and his numbers go up, then we're opening up more. We've got,
everybody else, the needs of the greater good are met at the same time. I mean, there's one thing to be able to buy votes, and if that's what he's doing, that's what he's doing. Who gives a shit? I'm Machiavellian when it comes to the actual institution of what people are doing when it comes to vaccines and lotteries. But what I couldn't, because I did a post because I thought to myself, I wonder if any of those hardcore morons that hit us up on Twitter over the past year, calling it the pandemic, calling us idiots, saying that we've bought the lie, we're sheeple. I wonder how many of those people,
libtards,
would enter. Yeah, libtard is my favorite. Would enter this lottery vaccination if it meant that they could qualify to win some money. So I put out this little poll, straw poll, if you will. Curious, I said, if you're on the fence about getting vaxxed and someone offered you $500, would you do it? Almost 70% said totally. Oh, you hardcore losers. 19% said no, well, 20%. And another 12% said maybe they'd do it for $1,000. Those are the people that have held out and said they won't get the vaccine. It's life-changing. It's going to alter your DNA. It's going to turn you into a giant magnet.
Scrub your immune system so you die of your immune flu.
Yeah. And then you
grow horns.
You shed. That's the greatest one.
And then you
shed DNA and it kills your dog.
Spike proteins and it kills your dog. You can't come in your partner. There's no way the partner will allow you to come in them because you just shoot these spike proteins in through the jizz. That's what I heard from a buddy of mine. His wife married 30
That would
years.
hurt my wife's nipples. Oh my gosh.
They would.
Sorry. What? The spikes. I'm just saying, the spikes.
But amazed at the stick to it.
We always have that moment with you, James.
Yeah, at least
she always
once
has that
show.
moment too. At least once a day.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. So if you're on the fence and you're one of those people that didn't want to get a vaccine, and now that someone's offering you some money, or now that there's a lottery, you're a loser if you go back on your word. Just saying. You should be doubly shamed. I'll shame you for being an anti-vaxxer, and I'm going to shame you for actually going and getting the vaccine as well.
Yeah, but I don't know. I don't know.
Isn't it amazing? Isn't it amazing though? And this is going to feel like I'm pivoting away, but I'm going to come back to it. But did you guys see that the Dr. Fauci email leaks said that he basically consistently said throughout this entire pandemic privately that masks were ineffective? We have a communications problem, and that's why these people exist. And I still think that is the sort of biggest untold story about this pandemic.
Those Fauci leaked emails. He was like, masks they don't really work that much.
Yeah. He said that they're not effective for COVID unless someone horks on you. That's what he said.
Well, I mean, and I understand where you're going, James. So if that is the case and you've got stuff like that out in the zeitgeist, should we be that surprised that Bonzi in the States isn't getting the vaccine? He just wants to wait and see. But I don't believe those people should be shamed.
If the hockey puck is the pandemic and Gretzky just scored a goal, then the assist to Yari Curry, Fauci is Yari Curry.
I think you're giving him more credit, but
I didn't choose Messi.
I think you take Fauci out of it. I think you're still dealing with the same issues, and And
Not to the extent. That's all I'm saying. I think it gave them a real boost. I think.
The conspiracy group? The
Fauci, just Fauci as an individual. Like, we all know the timeline. He came out. He said masks were ineffective. He said that later. He lied about that because he didn't want people to hoard the right kinds of masks. And then he said masks were effective again. Now he wants us to believe him. And then a week ago it comes out. Actually, I was lying the whole time. Masks were never really effective. That is a massive story.
He was lying. From what I read, it was like, hey, you know what? This thing's evolving. Let's put on masks and figure it out after.
There was a lot of information.
There was already
there was a lot of information out there that the masks were not necessarily 100%. And it was like, which is true.
And but they're not.
It's not the worst thing in the world. Put a mask on.
Okay, but that's
saves you 5%, 10%.
But if he would, but if the guy in charge of the pandemic recovery or whatever is saying or believes that masks are ineffective and still puts everyone in masks, what the fuck are we doing at that point? What are we saying? Like,
but it's not a black and white world, though, James.
Yeah, and it's not. And Anthony Fauci isn't the guy that made the entire world mask up. I mean, that was each individual city, each individual country had their own mask mandates. You're just talking about the states, and you're trying to sewer the Fauci. Dude's 80. Leave him alone. The Fauci is going to be dead before you get to 60.
Good.
And there you are crapping on this guy who's got like the greatest education in immunology in the world. And I'm sucking the D. I'm essing this the Fauci D. Because I don't listen. The last thing I want to do is get into Fauci's emails at the end of a pandemic.
I'm just saying. I'm just talking. I think the reality is that a guy like that, increased the pile of people that are conspiracy theorists because of the way he communicates, because of the conflicting information. We already knew before the pandemic started.
Are you seriously blaming Dr. Anthony Fauci?
He was in the Trump White House. He was in the Trump White House.
On everybody?
I'm giving him a flying, I'm giving him out.
Too.
I'm not.
Full out.
Why would you give a guy an out when
full pass?
This is exactly like Hillary Clinton saying, I say some things publicly and I say some things privately because I don't want to alert the public. It's the same thing. It's just that strategy that politicians use because they don't have a strategy for the 325 million people in his case. They have a strategy for a section of that will do what you say, and they went with those people. And I think that enhanced the likelihood of people being conspiracy theorists. That's all.
I wish I cared as much as you.
Yeah, just dead people. Fuck them.
It doesn't matter to me. We're almost out. Dude. Fellas.
I know.
We're almost out of the pandemic. Like, this is it. It's coming to an end. This isn't like the last 3 or 4 times. Like, fuck the Fauci emails. Fuck the anti-vaxxers. We're like Canada's 73% vaccinated.
We're there. We're
73
close. I think we've done, and I think we need to focus on the
positive.
positive.
Yeah,
I think we need to
sit here and go, what about Anthony Fauci's this and what about that? I don't care about any of it. I don't care about
you guys booked your second?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I got 6 appointments booked this morning. I'm on 6 wait lists. 6 because I want to get this thing done because I'm tired of it.
I got mine June 27th, which is exactly 8 weeks from when I got it. Got the first shot, and the wife. I told the wife because she was the one that was a little bit concerned. She's more concerned about the effects of mixing and matching and everything like that. So her and some of her friends and coworkers did a bunch of research, and I said, I'll do whatever you do. If you do the second dose AstraZeneca, I'll do that. If you want to do the Pfizer, then we'll go and we'll do the Pfizer. So we're going to mix and match. We're getting the Pfizer this next dose on the 27th.
Congratulations.
And we'll be double dosed in the.
You'll be good.
I can't make my appointment yet because I live in the sticks, and the pharmacy that I got the first shot, they still don't know when they're getting their vaccines, and they don't know if they're getting AstraZeneca, which was what I would prefer because I don't want to mix. I'm just that guy. I just don't want to.
That's fine, man.
I will mix if I have to, but I don't want to. Like that's
don't but I don't think we're going to get much AstraZeneca. I think it's going to be in very
we have like 450,000 here, and I think 1.2 million is just arrived or is about to arrive at the end of the month. I can't remember. I'm sorry, but
850,000 at the end of the month and 9.5.
It's not a lot though. When you take into consideration of how many people we've
9.5 million doses of AstraZeneca.
Pfizer.
Oh, Pfizer.
Yeah,
and 2 million doses of Moderna. Like it really fucking matters. I mean, we're just giving out numbers.
Yeah.
Contact your pharmacy. Make an appointment. That was the other thing. I booked an appointment, booked 6 appointments this morning just to see which one I
Are you allowed to do that?
No, but I did. And after I booked 6 appointments, I'm like, I booked 6 appointments on Twitter. The cavalcade of hatred from people who didn't get an appointment was fucking hilarious. You hogged them all.
Yeah.
What about
you did.
Relax. They're all waiting lists. Relax. Get on a waiting list and go get your vaccine. Thanks, guys. Really appreciate you.
That's like if you got 6 appointments and you're only going to get 1 shot, that's different. 6 waiting lists.
Yeah,
I think that's okay. I'm not. What is TML, by the way?
No idea. I didn't change it before I got on. Someone else was using the program yesterday. I think the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Okay.
Toronto Maple Leafs.
It was a golfing program. Oh, cool.
Yeah, golfing program. It's not a golfing program. Anyway, tweet of the year goes to Jamesy. Cocaine, probably.
Habs are going to win. Habs are going to win tonight, like 3-1 on an empty netter.
I don't care.
Just saying, just letting you know.
They're getting swept. Vegas.
Oh yeah, like the Jets. Yeah.
My predictions have been solid this year.
Real good. I am, however, excited to see what happens with this crossover now that these teams are going to be playing other teams, because it'll be if the Habs do get swept, it'll be a great indicator that the North Division indeed was as shit as everybody says. Oh my
God, it's Vegas and even the Island. Yeah. Did you see the Islanders game yesterday? My God, that's a good team.
Yep.
I still think the Tampa Bay is going to take that 7 though, and I think the Islanders are going to win it. Yeah.
All right, boys.
See you, fellas. Appreciate you doing this. Thanks, guys. Lochlin Cross, 95.7 Cruise FM in Edmonton, and that is James DiFiore. Blackballmedia.ca is where you can find him. Blackballed, the name of the podcast. You can get it anywhere you get your fine podcast. Thanks, everybody. Was that ever a Monday? Was that ever a Monday program, everybody? Anyway, thanks to Mike Lake, MP for Edmonton-Wetaskiwin, for coming on and talking about him and his son and life. It was great. Appreciate that. Thanks to James and Locke. Thank you for listening. Thanks to Domination, DMNTN.com. Try them today. It's AI that helps you produce content. Super easy to use. Go to DMNTN.com today. Try them out. It's how you produce commercials and content and promos, and it takes a fraction of the time. Totally free to try. Zero obligation. It's not like you sign up for something. You just pump it in and it produces all your content. It's weirdly cool. DMNTN.com. Try them out today. Ed's Fine Imports and his Gitch luxurious underwear that you can now get from Ed by ordering from edsfineimports.com. 3 pairs for the price of 3, and then he'll throw in another pair for free, so that's 4 when you use promo code Gitch and then the number 3 for edsfineimports.com. Thanks to our friends over at Easy Auto Financial. Easy Auto Financial is the only place you need to go to get financing for a vehicle. Not only do they set you up with financing, not only is that financing free to get, they don't charge you for it, and there's no obligation to stick around either. They'll also hook you up with the car that you want. Go to easyautofinancial.ca today. Check them out. Apply online. Get the process started. You're looking for a vehicle. There's no other place to go to. easyautofinancial.ca. And thanks to our friends over at Blue Microphones as well, at Blue Microphones on Twitter, at bluemic.com. Visit them today. Check out their full line of USB and XLR microphones, including, but not limited to, this Blue Yeti X microphone. USB, they got XLR, they got everything. They got the MoFi headphones. If you're a gamer, if you're a streamer, whatever it is you do, go to Blue Microphones by checking them out online at bluemic.com. Again, www.bluemic.com. Have a great day, everybody. Thanks for listening, being part of the program. Here's the extra. See you later. How about that little puke that doesn't want that statue to come down, though? What a turd burglar. I'm a 20-year-old Ryerson student who wants the statue of a man who committed mass genocide back because I love the statue. What I could do is come down there and build you a new Egerton Ryerson statue out of your mom's old pill bottle. So